thanks for the frantic phone call for Chris the other day too. So, Chris knows too?
No, I mean,
Oh.
first, but...
Oh, okay. I got a voicemail that started, "Hey, Chris." So anyways, 2 nights ago, Becky asked me to talk, and I really didn't know what I should talk about. So as I was trying to figure out what and think about it, I asked Becky, "What should I talk about?" She said, "Just tell your story." And I don't think I have that great of a story, but she apparently does. And so we'll kind of go over that a little bit. But as I was trying to figure out some topics for throwing into that to give you guys actual value with this too, the topic of why always comes up in my mind, and I figured that's something that should be in any entrepreneurial-minded person, whether you own your own person or you own your own business or not, anyways. So I just wanted to start by asking anybody if they would volunteer with, do you know your why? Why are you in business? Why are you doing what you're doing? Anybody? Yep. Oh, either one.
I was doing, excuse me, the work I was doing was killing me. In addition to, I also wasn't doing what I love.
Sure.
And so that's I think the biggest reason is to have an opportunity to do what I love. So.
And that's awesome. And you're still kind of earlier on on your own, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been since April that I started. So.
That's awesome. So you and I are kind of still in the same boat. I know that we've chatted a little bit. I didn't start too long before that as well. So have a seat. No problem. I want to try to keep this as interactive as possible. So please, everybody, chime in. Yeah. So Chris, what was your why?
So I'm a business attorney, and the law can be kind of complicated, and but it doesn't need to be. And so that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy kind of sitting down and helping clients understand the legal issues that are kind of underpinning all the decisions that they make, and how to kind of understand what the issues are and how to feel comfortable moving forward. And so I've been practicing for 17 years. I just went out on my own last May, started my own firm, but I'm doing the exact same thing I was doing before. Mm-hmm. It's basically helping business owners understand their legal issues. So,
awesome.
And I enjoy it.
Yeah. So through my journey, I started my business in October of 2015 officially. We started kind of laying the groundwork in July of that year, so it hasn't been quite 2 years yet. And when I started, I kind of had an idea of the direction that we were going, and an idea of revenues and how many people were going to like what we were doing, how many people were going to jump right in. After about 6 months, I realized how wrong I was about all of that, and then I needed to kind of re-steer my thinking and re-steer my mindset and how I was. Yeah, Lee.
Chris. Derek.
Fair enough.
Derek, can you tell us exactly what do you do?
Sure. So my business is CLE 3D. We do advanced property imaging, and so we initially started out only doing 3D imaging, 3D capture within properties. So we have a special camera that we go into homes, businesses, new construction builds for builders to be able to use as model homes instead of having actual physical locations. They can store those all online. Very low overhead. It really is a good product for the applications that it involves. As we started jumping in, our customers really liked it, but they didn't like that we weren't doing other things as well. So over the last year and a half or so, we've slowly added other ancillary products, still photos, aerial photography and videography, single property websites, 3D rendering and actual modeling, so I can actually draw from a floor plan or anything that you have an idea of. That's kind of where my background is anyways, in 3D modeling. I've been doing that for about 17 years, give or take. And I know I don't look old enough to be doing that, but I was actually in the industry for about 5 or 6 years doing 3D modeling and engineering work. So it kind of set me up perfectly to go into this business with CLE 3D. So just about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I really tried to dig into the mindset and try to find resources to listen to, read, watch, basically soak everything up as much as I can about why I'm doing this, because it's something I couldn't answer. And it was something that I couldn't answer for previous jobs that I had held as well. And the more I got to reading and learning, the more I understood why those weren't good fits for me. And it's why, even though I'm still barely making any money a year and a half later, personally, my business is growing and I have a better understanding of where I'm going and why I'm doing it. So I just want to play a quick clip here. This is one of the guys, if you guys haven't, actually two of these. So Content Marketing World was started by a guy named Joe Polizzi, who has a couple of books as well, all about content marketing. And content marketing, basically, at the core of content marketing is if you create good content that's valuable for people, it doesn't matter what that content is, you gain their trust and you gain a big enough following that eventually you'll be able to sell anything. It doesn't matter what industry and what you're doing. So that's kind of the thought behind that. And so they started this Content Marketing World, which is actually held right here in Cleveland every summer. And they have awesome speakers, kind of like this guy, Michael Jr., who's a comedian. Is anybody familiar with Michael Jr. at all? He's really good at tying in jokes and making people laugh with having an actual greater purpose and trying to educate people as well. So for him to speak at Content Marketing World was perfect. And this is just like a minute and a half real quick. So the biggest thing that he really touches on there is the what versus the why. Does anybody else know Simon Sinek? No? Okay. Well, everybody should look up Michael Jr. and Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek has a book called Start With Why. And so basically the concept around it is what kind of looks like a bullseye. So there's why, how, and what. So everybody knows what their what is. Everybody knows what they're doing every day. Everybody knows what their setup is, like Michael Jr. was talking about. Everybody goes through those motions every day and has a good idea of that. And then they move into the how. And they kind of have a pretty good idea, most people do, of how they're doing that, how they're doing that what. The middle of that is their why, though. And if you don't know your why, like Michael Jr. was talking about, it's going to be hard for you to really ever believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. And so if you start with the why and then work out, it's going to be much easier to do what you love. And so getting into the two whys of why I asked, or of what I asked, is this too loud? It feels like it's too loud. I could hear it reverbing, but anyways, so your why, it's almost there. You weren't happy. There's a reason that you weren't happy. That's what your why is. Why weren't you happy, and what makes you happy now about what you're doing?
I keep forgetting. There's a few related whys. Honestly, why photograph, right? Why do I shoot? One, I would say the biggest underlying why for me is to create something beautiful. It's that simple. That's what it boils down to. And there's, I love people. Mm-hmm. Shooting people. I mean, it's the most interesting subject to me is humanity.
Taking photos of people.
Yeah. Yes, taking photos of people. So yeah, I have to watch my terminology. But yeah, it's like, I mean, honestly, and for me, it could be, and this is, and not to sound, go too far with it, I apologize if I am, but it's just like, the bump on somebody's nose, to me is fascinating and interesting, the way the smile is kind of a little crooked, or just like little things like that are just amazing to me and beautiful. Mm-hmm. But other people might look at them as being, well, if you look at like the media, no, it's not, go over the face and blur everything so they have no pores, and it's gross. But that's not me. So right. Yeah, I want to create beauty and put it out in the world.
Sure. So then digging in further of why? What are those? Is that for you, or is that for other people to enjoy?
For me, it's for other people. I get excited when people look at something I've created and they see something, especially when they see something that speaks to them in their unique way. Mm-hmm. That is extremely exciting because you never know when you put art out how somebody's going to react to it.
Sure.
And so I create a piece with a certain intention. and somebody reads something in there and sees something and it speaks to them in a different way, and I think it's amazing, and
Sure.
it lights me up. I love it.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. Get to know everybody kind of at their core level, what they like about every little thing. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And then Chris, for your why. After listening to this too, would you think that what you said was more of your what and what you're doing versus your why? And would you be able to dig deeper into why you're doing those things? So the legal side and helping people through the legal side is the what, and the how is what you actually go about every day to do those things. But then digging deeper into the why.
Well, doing the corporate side, litigation, you're in a fight, you're in a battle. But on the corporate side of things, you're generally, or I generally find that I'm, depending on what the situation, but helping someone fulfill a dream. And so you're able to, cross that bridge with them, and then them to say, now I can start my business, or now I'm up and running, or whatever it is. So that's what I find to be rewarding, is when the person ultimately, gets whatever they need done, buying a building, getting a lease, getting a trademark, whatever it is, starting their business. And they're like, this is phenomenal. Thanks for the help. And so, that's kind of the reward at the end of the day.
Sure. And it's bringing them satisfaction and joy, like Michael was saying. Same with the photos. You're bringing people satisfaction and joy, and it's whatever your punchline is that you're delivering that, doing that. So to kind of get into more of what my why is, I love just trying to, help people every chance I get in whatever way I can. So just trying to help is really my biggest, that's kind of at the core of everything. And it can get me in trouble sometimes because I never say no, and I take on too much, and it's something that eventually I'm gonna have to get better at saying no, that I can't help right now. I wish I could, that kind of thing. But how I relate that into my business, especially with CLE 3D, and the tools that we provide for marketing properties in any context, whether it's commercial or residential, is that it's saving somebody time somewhere down the line. And time is our biggest asset. Time is the one thing that we can't get back, and we have a finite amount of, unfortunately. And so by using the resources that I have available to my clients, I'm trying to save them time, save their clients time, and save everybody involved in the transaction time. On top of that, I opened an office space that Lorain and Danielle are here, that they are sharing with me so far. We're going to be making it a little bit bigger for other people as well. But over the first year and a half or so of my business, the things that I wish I could have had that would have jumped me ahead would have been having that office available, having the resources within an office available, having a receptionist or an assistant, having printers, having basically everything that comes with that available to a smaller business. And so I wanted to bring that to other people as well within the community. So I created a co-working space for everybody else to be able to come in and sit down and work as well. They can just come in for a day, they can come in as much as they want, they can have their own desk, and they'll have those resources from day one. They don't have to worry about having $500, $600, $700, or $800 in overhead to be able to just get started. And so again, just trying to go back to helping people. Take a look at my notes here. So another thing from Michael Jr. that he talks about in a different talk is finding your why, not just a why. And so trying to dig and find what makes you tick, and trying to determine that can be difficult sometimes. And so going back to a couple of other exercises from other people, one of the really good way to do that is to ask your family and friends, why are you friends with me? I know it sounds really weird. To go up to some of your best friends though, make a list of 3, 4, 5 of your best friends, and literally just ask them, why are you friends with me? What about me do you like best? And you can do that on the other side too. What about me do you not like best? And you can see what kind of answers they have. But then write all those down separately and see what overlaps do you have. what is it that they see in you that you might not even see in yourself? And so that's a cool exercise that that you can try for sure. Let's see.
Your why is almost like an onion. There's layers and layers and layers to it. And I think a lot of people stop at that first or second layer of that onion and they're like, okay, I know my why, but you really haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
Things I've read is when you have an emotional response, now you know you've kind of hit a nerve, and that's when you're starting to get to what your true why is.
Absolutely. Has anybody heard of the 5 whys? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, the 5 whys would be, so like, I'm sorry, Keith, that's right. I was like, Alton, I know that. Like with Keith, why? And then I asked again, why? And I asked again, why? So we only went a few layers deep, but if you can ask any question, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's personal or something in your business, ask why you're doing it, and why you're doing that, and then why you're doing that. And keep digging down until you can't really answer anymore, or until something just makes sense. And you'll be surprised at what you at what you find. Lee?
My question was, and I think you answered it, how do you know when you've gotten to the bottom why? You know, and I don't think that you can just sit down and say, okay, right now, I'm going to go through all my whys to get all the way down. I think it's a living process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. For the most part, the reason that you do anything, there's going to be one core concept, whatever that is. But it might take time to find that, and it might take time to understand. And along your path, I'm 30 years old, and I've been in multiple industries and worked in different companies that, looking back now, after knowing a lot of the things that I do know now, the core competencies that I thought that those companies had at the time are reasons that I didn't stick around, and that are reasons that I didn't last within the companies, because they weren't good reasons. And I think those companies need to take a step back as well. But anyways, that finding that real why goes to the emotional side of it, like you had mentioned. And you know, if you think you have a why and you think about it a little bit, and it's literally just to, whether it's a paycheck or any kind of day-to-day activity of what that why is, and you don't have that emotional response, it's not it. You got to keep digging, and it can take a long time to really find that reason. Again, I'm 30. I started this business when I was 29, and really until the last year or so, I felt like I was wandering, and it's a tough spot to be in, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are in that same boat, and I think it's something we should probably talk about more. So I started at Ohio State, and I was an athlete. I played hockey. I played inline hockey at Ohio State, and I don't regret my time there at all, because I loved the time, the friends that I made, the experiences that I had, and everything that I did learn while I was there. I changed my major 3 times, and I was there for about 5.5 years, and left without a degree. Then went to Cleveland State, and after having multiple internships and different jobs within the engineering world, I decided that I wanted to understand more of the number side within engineering, and costing, and why things are, it goes to the why a lot. Why things are priced where they're at. Why is a good engineer with the same degree as somebody else that isn't? You know, somebody that isn't making something well, or is having a hard time finding a job, whatever the case is. And a lot of that for engineering really comes to any engineer can design something, whether it's a system or product or anything in the engineering world, really. But it takes a good one to be able to make something that is within decent tolerancing, that can actually be produced for a price that those customers are going to pay, if that makes sense. So I got into accounting at Cleveland State. So I went to Cleveland State for about 2 years for accounting, also left there without a degree. Currently, I'm about 4 semesters away from 4 different degrees. So that's something as well that kind of more entrepreneurs have in common than not, is jumping around a lot and having school experiences or dropping out or whatever those cases are. Then after that, I was in the financial world, back office for financial advisors for about 3 years. I learned taxes, so I'm still a tax preparer. I do taxes on the side as well still. And then I got back into manufacturing and started doing 3D modeling and cost accounting, basically, in a sales department in manufacturing. So I was able to kind of take everything that I've learned and roll it into one position that I still haven't met anybody else that has engineering and accounting. So it's positioned me really well to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, and to start my own business, to kind of understand a lot of the basics and a lot of the umbrella that entails. I knew it was going to be a lot of work when I started, and I completely underestimated it. So it's a lot more work than I thought. So are there any other questions right now before I look back in my notes again? Yeah, Kurt.
Basically, with self-employed, I've been, I sell insurance, but I've been a musician all my life since I was in the 7th grade. So I totally get the self-employment thing. I want to share something real quick. There's a guy named Derek that started a company called CD Baby. It's for artists that used to have record deals. You can go to that online site and put your product in there. People can buy your record as long as you have the product, blah, blah, blah. But the guy left. He's a brilliant man. Whenever he gets successful at something, he leaves because it's too comfortable. And then he goes on and just does something totally different. He's a very interesting man. But his comment was, and I'm sharing this with my 21-year-old, we have passions. And those passions, the why is not even a given. You know, this is who I am. This is what I do. Can't wait to do it. Got to figure out how to do it. Money's always an issue. So sometimes the happiest people that have the passions also do something else on the side, so that money thing's not an issue, because I can go out and play music all the time, did it for, still do. If you have to worry about the money, then sometimes that takes the passion away. Now that business is interfering with your passion. And sometimes it all doesn't align. And it's a conflict with self-employed people, because I got this passion, but damn it, I got to pay bills, man. Yep. So then all of a sudden that passion's turned into this business thing, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you have 6 cylinders, you want at least 4 of them running. Sometimes you have to do other things that go against that passion, and that's a tough thing for somebody that has a passion. So bringing that up, I see you had the shared space. Did you get income from that?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
So anyways, I'm just...
Eventually, it'll be something that I do, but that's not the reason that I'm doing it. If I never make $1 from it, I'm okay with that. And it's just a resource I want in the community to make available.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
No, the only reason I brought that up, because I'm sure anybody that has a business shares those feelings, because money's always an issue. And until you get very successful doing your passion, sometimes you have to do other things, and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I probably should have taken notes on that about 1.5 years ago, so that I would have been making a little bit of money as well, and trying to do this on the side. I think it would have been difficult for me to do that, given the industries that I'm in and the people I work with. Real estate agents work all the time anyways, but they don't really want to talk to anybody else outside of 9 to 3. Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, one of my friends that's actually an engineer from Ohio State, worked in his industry for a few years after college, and then decided that wasn't at all what he wanted to do, and opened a co-working space. And so he's got a co-working space in Charlotte, North Carolina, that is his main job. He's got 1 or 2 partners, and it's what they do all the time, and they work on it all the time. It's a big space, and it's actually something that can support him, which is awesome. Eventually, I'd love to have something like that here in Cleveland. There's a couple of small co-working spaces that aren't quite to that scale yet, and so eventually I'd love to be involved in something like that, so for sure. But on that practical side with money, everybody has bills to pay, and those have to get paid one way or another. I'm very fortunate that I have a wife that has supported me through this journey and has supported our family. And without that, the last year and a half would have been very different for me. But going to somebody else, Gary Vaynerchuk, anybody know Gary V? Jeez. Man, okay, well, I'll provide a list of all these people that you guys can check out, and in your free time, you can start, no. So Gary V is big on being practical, but also working your ass off. And if you have to work a 9 to 5 to be able to pay your bills, that's totally understandable. But then you've still got 6 to 2. That's another 8 hours that you can work on whatever it is your passion is, and you're doing another full-time job on top of that. And that might not pay you for another year, 2, 3 years down the road, but eventually, hopefully, that can pay off. And whatever that is, maybe that's music. And even if you're going to play 1 or 2 times on the music side, maybe play once a week, maybe once a month. There's going to be other things that you can be doing to try to build a following. Kind of going back towards the content marketing side, especially with music. And what I do, it's really easy to generate content to share. I'm taking photos and video all day long. And so I've got a ton of content to be able to share. With music, you can constantly be recording music. And it doesn't have to be studio recorded music. It can just be something recorded on your iPhone, quick video, and share that out. Start building that following. And if you're creating something that's valuable and worthwhile to people, they're going to like that. They're going to become engaged with it. They're going to share it. And you're going to start building that following. And that's eventually, even just that following is something you can monetize. And that monetization can come in a lot of different ways, whether it's actually selling CDs, selling your music, not CDs anymore, I guess, probably all digital, but I wouldn't buy a CD right now. So, what's up?
Vinyl's coming back.
Yeah, it actually is. Yeah, vinyl is really cool, and I just saw recently another startup coming in doing. I don't think it's in Cleveland, but another startup business coming back to recording. Like a recording studio to vinyl, which is really cool. I don't know how big it's going to take off, but hey, we'll see. Let's see, where was I going with all that? But basically just creating that following, and it's something you can be working on all the time, and that's something you can work on. Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is something I just started using maybe in the last 4 months or so. I wish I would have started using it 2 years ago. I'd be a lot more comfortable, and I'd have a much bigger following than I do now. But it's something that, because my content, again, is so visual, that Instagram is exactly where I should be. And it's very interactive right now. It's not as noisy as Facebook is. And so Facebook, you have to be spending money on Facebook for people to see it.
Older.
What's that?
You have to be older.
Older?
Kids don't go on it.
Not really. No. Which, again, for what I'm doing, that's okay. My customers aren't 20 years old. So some of the users are, but not my customers. And so it's kind of a fine line that I have to balance between my user base and my customer base. Most of my customers, not most, there's a lot of my customers, though, that don't give a crap about the content I create. They do it because their users and their clients do. So, yeah.
I like what you pointed out with Gary Vee. One of the things I like about him is he's so about doing stuff.
Yep.
And he's everyone thinks and thinks and thinks, and it's more about speed than perfection.
Absolutely.
Right? If you want to do something, you better do it than sit around and talk about it or think about it. How am I going to do this? When am I going to do it? You
Absolutely.
got to do it. So that's really cool. It's obviously something you've done. One of the questions I had for you was, so you've been doing this for just over a year, right? How many times did you think about quitting, or what happened?
Oh, man.
What did you do when that happens? Because I'm sure everyone in this room, including myself, what did you do? How did you push through that?
About 36 hours ago, Becky said, "Hey, will you talk?" And I said, "I don't think I do this anymore." So no. No, there's been, doesn't happen a lot. I think any other entrepreneur in here so far probably has thought about, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This obviously isn't working. And it goes back to my why and my passions, and I have to try to replay those again. But it's probably been 2 or 3 times that the thought hasn't lasted a long time, but the conversation comes up with my wife, should I still be doing this? And it really just goes back to the practical side of it, which everybody needs to pay attention to, obviously. Whatever your passion is, whatever your why is, whatever your business is, cash has to be first. And because everybody has bills and everybody has things, there's always ways to cut, always things to do to be able to live a lifestyle that's sustainable. But it's happened a few times, and you really just have to have a conversation again with somebody that is close to you. Doesn't have to be your spouse, doesn't have to be a wife, maybe a business partner, maybe a good friend, a client, whatever it is that can kind of help you think practically and reasonably about the situation. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses do fail and a lot of businesses close, and there has to be a time that you have to say, okay, this isn't it. But that doesn't mean that you have to stop trying to do something. So anyways.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty, and I like that you kind of fall back on your, like, why am I doing this? And that's a constant reminder for you. Mm-hmm. What kind of mentorship have you had in your career? What role has mentorship played for you?
It's a good question. Mentorship is something that I kind of look at in more of a global sense. I don't have necessarily one person that I've kind of like latched onto and that's helped me along the way. There's been a lot of contacts that I've been able to make, especially over the last year. Last January, I started coming to FEBE, and I've sat down with a lot of people. Chris has given me a lot of really valuable information. I've sat down with probably half the people in here so far, something like that. But so utilizing the resources available to us and reaching out and trying to just learn as much as we can. Mentorship doesn't have to be one person that's your mentor. Mentorship can be, again, part of a community, at least in my opinion. Looking up to other people to kind of see what to do and what not to do are huge. And have people around you that you can ask questions to is very important. And being resourceful, especially as a millennial, as a younger person, being resourceful and trying to find these answers and trying to find everything on my own has been important. And we actually just hired an assistant for me that, like, the biggest thing that I was asking and trying to find without just asking was, how resourceful are you, basically. I need somebody that can help me, that I can ask them to go find how or why to do something that I don't have to handhold. And so being resourceful is the biggest thing. So then I would say, getting back to the mentors, once I found Gary Vaynerchuk, a little over a year ago as well, I've tried to soak up everything that he puts out. He puts out a lot of content, and it's really hard to keep up. Back when I wasn't quite as busy, it was a little bit easier because I had time to just sit around and watch videos and listen to him talk. Now I have to kind of fit it in, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So finding other people that are successful without trying to follow their blueprints necessarily has been really has been a big key. And so some of those people, like Michael Jr. is somebody that can help motivate you and try to learn a few things from, but like on the mentor side, Gary Vaynerchuk is somebody that can really push you. Grant Cardone, if you haven't heard him or read any of his books, they're very rah, but they're useful and you get a lot of tools out of them. Let's see, some of the other ones. I guess one of the big ones that I try to keep myself grounded on every day is my family, and I've talked about my wife a few times, but thinking about my family is very important, and it's always family first, no matter what happens in business or life. Family is what you got, and they come first before everything else. So, yeah. Any other questions? Sorry, I was long-winded, but Chris?
I think it's also being realistic on the product or your service that you're going to be ultimately providing. because you have to, figure out that there's a need.
Yep.
And then you also have to be flexible. So I have, if I can do two quick examples, I had, this is going back to like maybe 2002-ish or 1-ish. And this company, hired me and my firm to go around and put all these shoebox-sized things on telephone poles throughout different communities. Pretty cool. There were all these little Wi-Fi boxes that they were going to completely connect a community, so you had Wi-Fi. Who had Wi-Fi in 2001? No one. So they ultimately went bankrupt. They were just too far advanced to get that out there. And so it was really cool, cutting edge, but no phone needed Wi-Fi then.
Yep.
And no computer, no notebook computer needed Wi-Fi. You just didn't have it. It was too expensive. And then, I had another client who they did all the serial entrepreneur, did all these different businesses, and they ultimately were running a kiosk in a mall. You walk through the mall and you get sprayed and things are shooting at you and dropping from the sky on you. And they ultimately found out the need for their product and where the product was sourced. And like, why can't we do that? So they went from a single store kiosk operator to now they do in excess of $10 million a year in sales, rolling this business out. So they were flexible. They got rid of all these other little businesses that were making a little bit of money, and they realized this was a really great opportunity. And now instead of running one kiosk, they go to like, Simon Properties. They say, we'll take all your kiosks in this space for the entire Midwest region. And Simon Properties is like, this is wonderful. We don't have all these little individual kiosk operators that we have to deal with. We have one company.
Sure.
And they were flexible, and they found an opportunity and seized it. And they do, a great job today. So
Absolutely.
it's also being flexible and realizing, which of these items is maybe actually going to work for you.
For sure. Yeah. It's a good point of, you have to read the market. The market's going to decide ultimately what they want and what is going to work versus not. Some of the products that we do, there was one in particular last summer we started rolling it out. We thought it was great. It was another tour that was cheap and extremely fast for us to be able to produce and get out there. And I sold one. And we tried to keep pushing it for a couple months, and literally one. We're like, okay, well that didn't work, so we cut it out. But that's just being able to pivot and decide what's best, and you have to be able to do that. That's why we've started adding those products to our services now. That's why I'm doing the office space and a couple other projects that we're doing because of necessity in the market. I'm not just doing them because, yes, I love them, but they're also that need in the marketplace for it as well, and that's definitely a big part of it. And being able to pivot and stay on top of it is huge, and that's the benefits of being a small business, which pretty much everybody in here is. Everybody's a small business. We have that luxury of being able to pivot and change quickly with what we're working on. So it was funny that you mentioned that with the Wi-Fi, but this is something that I look at a lot, again, being in the tech space. Yes, I'm a photographer, I guess, is where I would be classified, but we're more in the tech space, if anything else, so we're always keeping up with it. And so the law of diffusion of innovation basically is, I'm sure a lot of people know that already, but there's the innovators, which are going to be super early in on it. We had an issue with our camera last week, and I called in and gave them my serial number, and they said, oh, I've never seen one that early in the field. So we were an innovator. We have one of the first ones that were in the field, and that's why they thought we were having issues with it, because it's been out too long, basically. And then there's the early adopters and the early majority, and those are kind of the main core of my business. Those are going to be the main core of anybody's business. That's where you're going to make your money, and then once it starts going back down, that's where your imitators are going to come in and start taking up that market, and you need to stay ahead of all of that. So we're trying to do that as best we can with CLE 3D. So. Let's see. Any other questions? Any questions you guys have for me about my business or my background or anything that I can answer? Yeah, Kurt. Yeah, Mike.
But so for you to say, okay, I got to come up with my pricing, who are you comparing it to? People in Ohio or?
Pricing was very difficult, and it's still something that we're kind of working on. Pricing for every business needs to be a wave, depending on the economy, depending on business. Obviously, supply and demand. Everybody understands that, but you just have to again, be able to pivot and adjust to it. Pricing is something that we started out at one price as soon as we started it, and we got almost nobody to ask for it. Nobody calling, knocking on our door for it. So then we dropped it, and we got quite a bit of activity from that. And we realized we were too low. We weren't going to make any money, so then we had to bump it up a little bit. And so right now we're kind of in a bit of a plateau. We've been there for the last 8 months or so, especially still being early on. We've been trying to play with it as best we can. And we found a price that people don't really blink an eye at anymore, which makes me think that we need to start raising it again to be able to keep up with the demand that we're getting and to keep up with my expenses that keep rising as we keep staying with technology and buying new drones and buying new cameras and equipment and everything. And the thing I get a lot, I was on the phone with somebody yesterday and they said, okay, well, how much is this going to be? How much is this tour going to be? And I told them, and they said, oh, wow, it's cheap. I'm like, shit. So I need to work on that a little bit. And we'll get there, but with these ancillary products and offering packages, we're able to supplement that a lot. And so these other things that we're able to add in are big margin jumps for us, which are helping a lot. And that's something we're pushing for 2017 for sure. And then I think halfway through the year or so, we'll try to do a price increase. I just don't want to scare away too many clients. Although the clients that I have now that I've built up, I don't think will budge because it goes back to finding those, creating that following. And the majority of the clients that I love working with, I could probably double my pricing and they wouldn't budge. There might be a few properties that they wouldn't shoot anymore, but for the most part, my business wouldn't slow down with them. So pricing is a great question. The repeat stuff I don't really have to work on too hard. I kind of wish I did. It would be a little bit more probably rewarding for me to be able to have to work for that business. But the content that we create is good enough, not to toot my own horn, but the content that we create is good enough that the majority of people, once they have it once or twice for their properties, they're going to want it for all of them. And it also goes back to their clients as well. Their clients will see them do a 3D tour in virtual reality and aerial shots for a house down the street, and that's why they use them to list. And so they have to at that point. And so they kind of get into a cycle that way, which is good. So the repeat business is very important. There's been quite a few agents that have only done one property with me, and it's not enough for them to get a return on. And so it's them not keeping up with the content enough. That content is something that you can't just post. Back to the content marketing, you can't just post once a month, once every 6 months, and expect to see a return on social media. Social media is an investment, and it's something, even if you don't pay for ads or anything, it's an investment in your time, and it takes time to get that back. And so I wish more people would kind of stick with it a little bit more. So Janice is laughing at me, so yeah. Yeah, please. Oh, got the mic coming.
So it's kind of like a difficult question. I don't know if there's a direct answer to it, but like, if you're going after something like you started a business and you've been going after this thing for like, let's say 2 years, but you're not seeing any growth, you're not seeing any progress, how do you know when to quit? You know, how do you know when like, man, I don't think this is working and maybe I should try something else, as opposed to being persistent and consistent with it and just keep going after it?
Sure. I'm going to answer this the best I can. I haven't been in my own business for 2 years yet, so I'm going to answer it as objectively as possible. But so if after 2 years you're just not seeing that the growth that you want, the revenue, whatever it is, something has to change. And that doesn't mean that you have to quit the business. It means that you have to quit doing what you've been doing. There has to be a different way to go about it. And even if you think that you've been buying ads on Facebook, you've been trying to go to where your market is, you're obviously not. So in those two cases, especially after 2 years of doing something, if you are exactly where your target market is and you're in front of the right people that you should be able to sell to and they're not buying it, you're either priced too high or they don't like your product. And those are basically the only two things. And so that's one of those, that's a business thing, business lesson. Yeah.
I just wanted to add on that. So a couple things to add to that is I like that you said you don't quit. So you pivot and see,
Yeah.
in what direction. And you need to get feedback. Feedback's very important, whether it be surveys or just, cold calling or consulting with a business coach or something like that. So I just kind of wanted to add off of yours.
And I guess getting back to like the mentor question, mentorship, the first resources that I leaned on, not necessarily Neil Launchnet, although I kind of fell into the group with Neil Launchnet here that puts this on, but the SBDC right here in this building were the first people that I started talking with. Now I'm working with another business coach that I'm really excited to see 6 months down the road of where they can take me, where he can take me. And that's, again, an investment that I'm ready to make. I'm not going to stop working with Neil Launchnet and the SBDC, but it's something that I needed to try to focus a little bit more on and get a little bit more, actual experience in, I guess. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Very nice
Okay.
to see if there's anybody that hasn't seen what you do, takes a few minutes because it's so cool.
Oh, I appreciate that. Kurt basically said, if you guys haven't seen what I do, to take a look. I don't want to be my own commercial, but at the same time, I don't think anybody in here is my client necessarily, unless you guys have a brick and mortar that you want me to shoot. But so it's not really a commercial for me, but it's one of the things that we're working on coming into the summer is trying to educate the public on what we do, because the more of the, so I said there's a difference between users and my clients. And that create a different need for marketing and trying to figure out where to spend marketing dollars and where to spend energy and time. People ask me all the time if FEBE is worth my time. And when they literally just ask that, is FEBE worth your time to go to? Do you get business out of it? This kind of brings up a separate point, but getting into networking, getting business out of a networking event shouldn't be your main goal. Building relationships should be your main goal in networking. I probably could have done this on a presentation. I should have thought about it before, but basically it's relationship building versus networking. Next week I'll be here again. So sorry, Lauren. No. But yeah, relationship building versus networking. So one of the things I learned in 2016 that if you would have known me when I started the business versus now, I'm a completely different person. I still have a lot to work on personally and professionally, but I'm very nervous up here, but I am way more outgoing now than I was a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I literally sat in my basement all the time and didn't really do anything. And I was scared to go anywhere, basically. So it's been kind of fun even just watching myself change, which has been really cool. And again, I have a long way to go with that. But again, something else that entrepreneurs should be talking more about probably. So, but whether or not FEBE is worth it for me, it's making the contacts and getting comfortable talking like this. As much as this scares me to be up here, I'm going to grow a lot from being up here for this hour, and I'm going to try to take something out of it. So I guess thank you. But no. So I'll just pull up a couple of things real quick. So this is our main product. This is the Dollhouse View. This is a full 3D model of this house that is going on the market next week. And again, this is the Dollhouse View that looks like a dollhouse. You can see into it from every side. As you turn it around, you can see right in through the house. We can isolate it to each floor, so you can just see the main floor. And with the 3D floor plan here, you get a really good sense of where everything is within a house. So while photos and good quality professional photos can look really good in a house, not to knock photographers or anything, but you could literally stand. I always love to give an actual example. So you can step into the house from anywhere with the floor plan or the Dollhouse View. A photographer taking photos in this house could take one photo just like this of this family room and then literally turn and take a photo of the kitchen just like this. And both photos might look really nice. I'd probably move these bar stools and whatever, but you get a good sense of the space there, but you would have no idea, unless you actually knew the floor plan of the home, that that photo was taken in exactly the same spot. So with our tours, you're able to get a full perspective of the entire house and be able to just walk around. So you can click and look up and down, spin around, and actually see the space of the home and get full perspective of the property. And then from here as well, you can click on this button down here, View in VR, and you can pop it into the virtual reality headset, which I carry around with me all the time. And we have a cardboard headset as well that we give out to our clients. So then their client, it's basically a big business card for us. We have it branded with our name and information on it. So we give those out, and then they can use that with their clients to be able to show off the property and actually stand in virtual reality. So you can actually stand there and look around up and down. If anybody hasn't experienced virtual reality yet, you totally should. So it's a really cool, even not just from the practical side, but like playing games and stuff is a lot of fun with it too. So any other questions? Uh-oh, Kurt again.
I love what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for thanks for
I
pointing
think
that out.
this is going to be standard with realtors. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd be crazy not to do this.
Yep.
So when you do that with the realtor, say you sell your services to a realtor, Hannah, whoever,
Correct.
do you get, when they go to, I want to go look at this house to buy it, do I see that Derek, your company, made that video? Do you get to advertise like that? Or is that part of a deal?
Videos that I do in YouTube, yes. With these tours, I don't. And that's something that I haven't had to do that yet. There's not many people within the Cleveland area yet that are doing that are doing this. So my main competition right now is standard photography. There's a few other businesses that are doing something kind of similar, but we can do those things too. And actually, the other product that these other businesses are providing is the one that we tried to roll out last summer that didn't work. And so I see other agents do it, and they'll get with it eventually. So, thank you.